Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Shadow Steel, and you're watching Transport Tuesdays. Let's climb aboard, shall we? Shall we catch the train?
Oh, okay, that's my train. Okay. Whew. Alright, back to business. Ugh. Let's hope this thing holds up. I swear. Alright, guys. Well, I've been having a bit of issues here and there with the, with my game currently. But, hopefully I'm back. So, we are building our empire, finally. So I'm going to start off with a freight depot. Is that it? There we go. We don't need 2 tracks, we just need 1. Is that 1 track? Hold on. Yeah, that's 1 track, okay. I hear the fan blowing like crazy there. There we go. Right about there should be good. Should be on level ground too, for the most part. And then... oof, that's not far at all. At least for the railroad, anyway. But because it's not directly on there. Wait, was that a different one? I must have connected up to a different one along when I originally did this. I didn't even see that one. It was down south here. What it? The fuck? Okay, so when I originally was doing this, I was doing tests with this for a little bit. Originally when I did this, there was another oil well that I went to that hooked up over there, and it was down here somewhere. I didn't see it though. I don't see it anymore. That's weird. Because I got a hill too, I remember, because... oh, you know what? It probably was right about here somewhere. I think? The fuck? I could have sworn. Is this it? No, it's a cement factory. Because I got a hill somewhere. I am so fucking confused again. Fuck. Wow, okay, I'm confused like hell. Unless this is it. This might be it, actually, now that I think about it. Just need to build a, with that. I need to build my next train station relatively far from it. That way I can get a decent gradient if this is steep enough. 2 track. Oh, fuck. It's not gonna be far enough. That would be our farthest we can get. I need to also curve it if that's going to be the case. Maybe a very steep curve, honestly. Oh god, I can't fucking see! That's what I get when I don't take care of my diabetes. That's about good. About there, okay. And then from there... so essentially what I'm doing is building a clothesline, essentially. And I'm going to do this as much as possible. Whoops, wrong button. I'm going to try and spread this out as far as possible. That's exactly where I want it. Just spread that out just a tad. I can barely fucking see. There we go. And then from there, the train will kind of coil around over to here, but I need to figure out the perfect angle for that. Because this particular position is going to be difficult for the train. Because you got a, what the fuck? I can never figure out what's going on there, but I think I have a general idea. Move that. I have a general idea of why that curve is happening every time I build a road, so... holy shit, man. I don't think I ever talked about this in the original episode, but I find the original Transportation Tycoon music very nostalgic because I actually grew up with the Transportation Tycoon series and whatnot. Born 93, so the game had just come out, but I never got to play it until 98, 2000. By then, the spiritual successor, Locomotion, had come out. And, yeah, never got a real good chance to play it, honestly. Okay, I'm going to need to figure out a way to do this. I just cornered myself there with that. Let's see if I can do this. There's also the fact that, oh, well, what do you know? In all honesty, it may have to result in me, trying something interesting here. I may have an idea. It will result in a opposite curve position here. What about that? Positioning the station where it essentially just curves. Oh shit. I don't know if that's actually going to connect with the platform there. So what this is going to be very interesting to say the least. Yeah, I figured that would happen. Fuck. Damn it. Damn it. I knew that was going to be an issue. Should have done that. Okay. I can't believe you've done this. Alright, well. Yee! Maybe like this. I don't know how to... Maybe... We have to curve it just a tad. Oh god, what the fuck just happened there? There we go. Now, the unfortunate problem... What the fuck is that? What is this? Oh, dead tree. Well, that's that. And then with that, we kind of complete that line with the crew, fuel, and that. And then, going down here, we connect up to there. We go down this line. Got to curve around this mountain here. And connect up with the clothes factory over here. And then from there, the train connects up with this line. And then hooks up there. And essentially, stopping there. That also means that a handful of junctions will need to be set for that. Alright, I think I have a general idea of what I'm doing here. It just requires a bit of finesse. Something I actually don't freaking have. Nonetheless, let's try it. First off, I need to build a connection. Which is going to need us to connect up to this line here. So 40 miles an hour. That's the inner curve, correct? Yeah. Okay. Put that there. And then we're going to connect up about here. Now, I probably don't have to do this double track, honestly. As long as I got the slip switch over here and over here, I should be good. In terms of building the line. Oh, we got a train coming in. Where it? Where? What? Where's he at? Oh, there he is. Hello there, sir. Ah. I'll deal with the signals later. I won't need to deal that too much. Where is... here we go. So this is where things are going to get very tricky for me. I said that last time, didn't I? When I was building the station over at the fuel depot. Right, okay. Never mind. Gotta figure out the level around here. The level to the ground here. Didn't seem too bad around there. Alright. Alright, this one's gonna need a curve the other way. There. That seems good. we go. Essentially, that line will just... Whoa! Jesus! Okay. Well, I gotta pause this here. Again. Oh, this is the second time that I've done a Rail Transport Tuesdays with a pause. Alright. We got that connected. We've got that connected. We have this line officially fine. One thing I will need to do is actually build the second line there. And that's probably going to be a choke point for the most part. At least for now. I won't have to deal with this too much. Let me double check the line here. Because what I really want to do is use the existing line to minimize the amount of track used. That's going to require me to build a bridge across this lake or river. I'm going to build that first, actually, now that I think about it. That's also going to require me to remove these signals here. And, actually, probably right there should be good. Because I want to build this where ships can pass over. So, build that like so. I don't want it to essentially get in the way. There we go. Now, we start rising. Whoop. And we need to make sure that the ship lane is clear once we get moving. So I'm going to build this up as fast as possible. Alright, we're going to put that up so we can know the shipping lanes. There's the track. Unfortunately, I cannot... do that, but, oh, that's going to be a problem. I may have to actually use the... What the fuck is this? What kind of bridge is this? Oh, it's a viaduct. Well, it might be fine. But you know what? I'll probably stick with, what the fuck did I just... Seriously? I fucked it up. Girder bridge, stone bridge. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. There's the bridge. At least for the most part. There we go. Essentially what I'm trying to do, like I said, is use existing track as much as possible. There we go. Go down here. Lower the bridge. Warp. Alright, so there's our platform there. Essentially, what? Okay, there we go. And, should be good. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm going to go over here. Right there. Naturally, when I put that leveling position there, it's mainly to keep the train in order. So when I do a curve around it, okay. I did put that in the right spot, right? Yep, I did. Alright. I think I wasn't on camera. I was leaning too much. I can't see with this hat on, for the most part. There we go. There we go. Connect that there. From here, we connect up to the existing platform. There we go. And then we just need to build a crossover here. This does make things slightly more complicated in the long run, at least in terms of how this route works, but hey, it's not doing too bad, honestly. We got that line set up. Now we just need to reconnect this line. So we go this way. I'm gonna put that. Oh shit! Alright, there we go. Now we do auto. Then click that. And here we go. Oh, perfect. We're running up to a signal, too. This is pretty much where I want to be. I want to be pretty much close to the original signaling system that I put up in place as possible. That way we don't run into an issue later on. So, as I know that, because spacing-wise, the signal should be around the roughly around the same points. And then, oh god damn it, what the fuck is happening? Alright. I can't save! What am I doing here? What you doing? I probably got it stuck in my head ever since I watched it. There's a little funny little anime. There was a little animation I watched. Pretty funny. It was based around kind of like, what if the Scottish twins from Thomas the Tank Engine had a foul mouth? And it was like one of those like over the top goofy little things like, what you doing? No, what you like? I should link it one of these days in the description, showing off the guy's channel. I'm sure many people that have probably been a fan of like the Railwork series probably know this guy, Angry Welsh Productions. Great, funny little guy. Honestly, I honestly enjoy, or at least that particular video, I was pretty funny. In terms of what the fuck? Oh, there. Oh, jeez. I'm so confused. Like, what the fuck? Where's my train? But it was one of those things like, you know, you watch it and like, you can't help but laugh because of just how goofy it is. And honestly, there's one other thing I do want to ask this guy, and that is how he got the faces. Because of his models, or at least what he works with in terms of his videos, the models look like they're custom built and attached to the locomotives. I want to ask him about that. It's one of those like things like you come across like, what the hell? How'd you do that? There we go. Connected there. I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna connect this route here. That's what I was thinking. I knew this was different in some way. There's not gonna be a need to have the second track for this too much. Let me go ahead and just go like this. Well, I didn't know I could do that. We need to turn that just a tad so I can. There we go. Whoop. And there we go. Just connect this down over here. There we go. The only thing I really need to worry about, at least on this end, is just getting this switch here. It's not going to be too much of an issue, honestly. 36. Please increase the speed there, buddy. There we go. 40 miles an hour should do it. And there you go. Not exactly sure how long the first recording is, so I'm going to try and go for a little longer on this one. Ah! Where's my mouse cursor? There it is. Woo! Alrighty. We hooked that up. Now we gotta keep going with this line. Once that's done, we should have the basics of this line set up. So what I'm essentially doing is doing a whole single train contest for this run, rather than a long series of cars. So the contest, the train and everything should work as planned. The only thing that will be slightly different is that the end result train should be slightly different. So there's going to be probably 1 or 2 contests in total to make everything run smoothly, honestly. How fucking long? I don't think I actually built a train for the scenario. Oh god. Autosaving. Autosave correctly, please. Okay, we got it. I'm using a few, about 250 mods on this game alone. It's struggling with this computer. 12 gigabytes of RAM is not nearly enough for this thing. The poor thing's struggling. So we have the existing infrastructures in place and everything. Now, we're going to need to go to this area. That's not going to be too hard, per se. The main issue, at least in my eyes... Oh, hey, we're going into Railroad Tycoon 3 now. I left that entire thing up the entire time, didn't I? Oh, well. Another game I really found nostalgic. Railroad Tycoon 3. That was one of the... Other than Railroad Tycoon 2, it was one of those games I grew up playing more and more. So, I actually got the game fairly early on, actually. But it was, oh, dear God. What? Oh, we don't have an issue there. I knew there was going to be an issue. Hold on. Yep. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. Alright, hold on. I'm going to need a bulldozer. Bulldozer. Yeah, fuck. God damn it. Seriously? Well, apparently it doesn't have too much slope on that one. Fuck. I'm sure that a crossover is going to be impossible over here. We'll soon see. Also, one other thing about that, I'm probably going to need a overpass, actually. I'll probably do that easily, though. Alright, so go here. Make that crossover. It's one of those things I do need to be careful of. Hey, we did it! It's going to look as awkward as hell. What the fuck? Am I going backwards? So yeah, Railroad Tycoon 3, back to what I was saying. It was one of those games, like, I had a handful of games that I would always play over and over again. And that kind of still holds true today. I guess this is kind of continuing my original rant on loot boxes. But this was back during a time where games and loot boxes and stuff like this wasn't really a big deal, a really big thing. And today, it's one of those like, what? You play a single player game? What the fuck is wrong with you? It's like one of those things, like, I grew up with it, I'm like, it's just what I grew up with, dude. You don't need to judge me for something like that. And, granted, I understand why people love playing multiplayer games and stuff like that, because you're playing with your friends, but I never really had that option. Especially when I'm living out here, living out in an area where internet's a rarity, to say the least. So games like Railroad Tycoon 2, Locomotion, Transportation Tycoon, stuff like that, these were games I enjoyed. These were games that I actually learned how to manage things, for the most part. Granted, I never really got good at these games, but these were games that I honestly would spend so many hours on, to the point where it got to the point where I was capable of doing some of the most complex networks on each game. And it just became like this way of life for me. And when games like Sid Meier's Railroad came out, and then Railway Empire, I mean, this year has been the year of the Tycoon. Like, the past couple of years, Tycoon games have been quite literally a return to form. Like, so many of these games recently have been becoming more and more based around the Tycoon genre. What the fuck? Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, no matter. I have plenty of money to spare. So again, these games were like coming out at a time where, even for me, this was like, oh, well, this seems fun. Like, many people view like multiplayer as a necessity. I feel it's still an option. I don't feel multiplayer games are really necessary anymore, are still necessary. I mean, yes, they're recommended. People enjoy them for the most part. But there's also the fact that it's just flooded. I honestly don't find enjoyment out of playing multiplayer games, because honestly, I can't find one that I'm interested in, even though there's a ton of them. There's like you open up Steam, type in multiplayer, like go through the multiplayer tags, you'll probably like go through 50 known games, like big AAA games, before you start running into games that are so off the wall batty, like these games that are like nobody's ever heard of. And even then you're like, okay, yeah, I don't even like these. Like some games like The Crew, some recent games that have popped up, these games are like games in my mind that I never really would have taken interested in. And even then, it's only because of, like, say, a particular, like, how I tended to play games. I grew up playing single-player games, and even though most of my generation, I feel, the millennials, like the newest generations, I mean, the reason Fortnite's such a big thing is because it's just what people grew up playing nowadays. I mean, so many people grew up playing games like Fortnite. It's just like, yeah, I don't get what you're interested in, but if you like it, go ahead, play it. And granted, I'm probably one of the few people that I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's just one of those things like over the years, more and more like I feel this started with World of Warcraft. And granted, that was the big multiplayer game around my generation. Like that was the thing that started the whole multiplayer genre. But it was at a point where even back then, there were signs that multiplayer was becoming more and more of a common place kind of game style, because more and more games were starting to go for that more than they were playing single player games. I mean, if you have an old copy of Battlefield 2, I would recommend you open it up and try to look and compare the multiplayer maps versus the single player maps. You'll notice that the multiplayer maps are huge compared to their single player counterparts, which is rather interesting, to say the least. Because you come across, as soon as you start playing a map that in multiplayer would be 10 times bigger. But I just never got into it, only because when I started playing multiplayer games, or when multiplayer games became more and more prevalent, it was at a point where at home I was not capable of even watching a simple YouTube video. There would be times at the house, I mean, where I currently record still. Even to this day, there are times where I will try and watch a video, and all of a sudden everybody else is like, "What are you doing?" They're shouting at the top of their lungs, like, "What are you doing in there? What are you doing? Like, what are you downloading?" Like, somewhat, yeah, I'm watching a video. Like, turn it off. It's like one of those things, like, and it became, like, it honestly was rather unfortunate, because I guess you could say it tarnished my outlook on games that were multiplayer focused, because I, for one, never enjoyed multiplayer games because of just the simple factor of lag. Lag was a big killer, in my opinion, to a lot of multiplayer games. Any game that contained multiplayer aspects that would essentially allow the game to play long term, it just wasn't interesting to me. It was one of those things that, like, you came across it and it was like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, as soon as lag would pop on a game that I was playing online, and this was like way later when I had decent internet to play these games on, I immediately just turned it off. I'm like, yeah, I'm not dealing with this. Goodbye. Goodbye. And it was just like, I don't know. It just felt like, I guess you could say it was one of those things that it was simply, what the, god damn it. I popped open the game. I popped into a multiplayer match, and it would be like, to me, life and death in terms of like, oh, well, yeah. Oops, wrong signal. Like, I would literally just lose it if I ended up getting into a position where in a multiplayer game I couldn't like fight or do anything because one or more people were downloading. It was at a point in my life where it literally just like I don't know how to explain it. I just never grew up enjoying multiplayer games. And that's, I guess, circling around back to the loot box thing I was ranting about yesterday, or I mean, you know, the other week. I'm honestly in a position where a game that, in all honesty, was designed for multiplayer exclusivity online things, I just don't even pay it any attention. Like, if a game is solely focused on multiplayer and with no single player experience, I don't buy it. I don't get the game simply because I just don't want to deal with the frustration of bad internet or a bad connection. I mean, granted, a lot of games do that. A lot of games now, single player games especially, are starting to go to a point where they are exclusively streaming their content to a particular position rather than actively having it downloaded onto a hard disk drive and having the option to play the game separately. It was just at a point, it was just like, and this honestly, and again, much like the loot box thing, it infuriates me that everybody is solely focused on doing multiplayer now, that people like me are kind of left out in the cold. I will probably be playing more indie games than ever, simply because of the fact that I can play a lot of these indie games offline. I mean, for example, one of the big selling points for Railway Empire, kind of tying it in with the name here, was that you could play it offline. There was nothing that incentivized you to play it online, even though there was no online function. I mean, a lot of my enjoyment in a lot of these games today comes from just playing by myself. I mean, this is one of the reasons why games like Transport Fever, Meninsky, these games that I've been playing on Transport Tuesdays and Railway Madness and Railworks and Transport Tuesdays. Oh, I said Transport Tuesdays twice, didn't I? Fuck. A lot of these games I've been playing, there's little to no multiplayer inside of these games, and it's at a point, at least in my life, that I prefer playing single player games, and I, in all honesty, start to avoid online gaming. And if a game, let's just say, for instance, Train Sim World. I'm calling you guys out, honestly. You guys said you would have multiplayer, and yet here we are almost a full year after the game's initial release, and multiplayer is still not showing up. But Train Sim World, I got the game assuming multiplayer would be be put in quickly. Boy, was I wrong. Today, a year later, the game still has no multiplayer, but that's fine. In my mind, that was one of the things that, like, okay, if you don't have multiplayer, I do like the idea of playing around with a game like this. It was just one of those kinds of games that you came across and, like, I don't know. It seems like you would really focus, like a lot of people today tend to focus on the idea, like, you have to, 99.9%, probably not even that. A good chunk of publishers now say that their most of their money comes from microtransactions. Now, microtransactions can be a very vague term if you decide it is. For example, the idea for me of a microtransaction is the idea of any purchase that is only viable, like can only be used in that game it's purchased for. So a DLC item, say a locomotive DLC for Railworks is considered a microtransaction for me. And in my mind, that's what... And a lot of... Even though single-player games are minimal with that kind of stuff, it's still to a point, at least for me, that it's one of those, like, oh, well, do I really need to do this? And, it just comes to a point where you honestly try your hardest to go about and play a game you enjoy. But a lot of these games, when you start playing them, you in turn are playing, like, these games, at least in my mind, there's not much you can enjoy with them anymore. Because they're so tied with online. And you have a big risk, at least in my mind, to essentially get into a game and, I just don't know. It's one of these things that, like, people enjoy it, but I don't. I don't enjoy playing multiplayer games. And Where What You Dig, as one of my favorite radio show hosts says, but I just don't find enjoyment of a game that you will constantly drop if you don't have a good internet connection. Because a lot of these games today have been in situations where, I'm looking at the time here, a lot of these games today, they're in positions where, like, you need, like not even high-speed internet anymore to allow for these games to stay connected. And, it's just one of those things that I don't know. I don't feel like it's a good idea, at least in the long run, to play games like this. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Maybe I'll find it differently if I have a good internet connection and start playing them more. But as of right now, I just don't like playing with people, not only because of the possibility that I'm going to get dropped, but as I will talk about soon, after this little break, it's going to be one of those situations like, well, yeah, that seems reasonable.